Hi guys, this is Eloise Stewart, and I'm going to be talking to you about how to adapt your career amidst everything that's going on with COVID-19, with being quarantined, with working remotely and doing school remotely, and then everything that's affecting you in how careers are changing right now. And I want to break this up into three very simple sections, but the first one is so important for us to talk about first, and it's perspective. If we don't look at it from a couple different perspectives, if we don't look at it from outside of ourselves and kind of check our attitudes about this, there is no way that we can respond resourcefully and then adapt professionally, which are the two things I really want to talk about today and flesh out for you and give you some really practical tips and advice as you're trying to adapt in your career right now. So the first thing is perspective, and you'll see a few things listed here, and I just want to briefly touch on each one. But the first thing is you can't afford to view yourself as a victim during this season. And I know you might hear that, and I don't know what you're going through, and I hope that when I say this, you're not hearing me be harsh or you're not hearing me be insensitive, because that's not the case at all. I understand that there are victims of the coronavirus. I understand that, and I understand that it is very hard. But you can't afford to view yourself as a victim right now. Because if you do, it is going to affect your mental health, your well-being, your emotional, your just relationships, your spiritual health right now. And you can't afford to do that. And so you've got to check your perspective and your mindset and your attitude on a daily basis. And a lot of the way that you do that is what you're allowing yourself to absorb each day, and who's talking to you in each way. And so I hope today that as you absorb what I'm trying to share with you, that you realize that you can't afford to view yourself as a victim, but rather view yourself as someone who is going through something that's only going to make you grow and become stronger and make you more thankful for the life that you have. The second point here is it's a time to differentiate. This is not a time for you to view yourself in competition with everybody. I don't think that's going to get you very far. This is a time that you need to differentiate yourself from others, and there's two ways to do that. Think about what have you already done in your career, in your schooling, and what you already know. And how can that differentiate you? How can you communicate that, present that, pull that together in a way that you haven't had time to already or have never thought of, and do that now? And then the second point is, how can you learn something new? What can you do right now to differentiate yourself for the future? So I'm going to use examples for interior design throughout this talk. And so think about it like this. If you are in interior design and you are specifically interested in healthcare design, you should be researching and following your professors and following articles and research that's going on right now, that they're trying to learn, how do we need to design in the future to make sure that we can respond to things like pandemics differently in the future? Right? So I would encourage you to be more educated on these areas. I'm not saying you have to be an expert. We don't know all the answers right now, but you following it and you gathering things and you showing an interest can possibly differentiate you in a conversation in the future. So think about it like that. The third thing here is that you need to understand, if you're a student right now, your department, your college, your university, they are on your side. And we have got to view it like that. And I know that it might not feel like that, and there really might be some people that aren't on your side. I understand that. However, you need to change your perspective and your mindset on this. You need to view that each person, the government, your boss, your company, your department, your college, your university, they are on your side. If you start viewing it from that way, then you'll start taking initiative to communicate. Right? So it's on you. So if you view this as, okay, they're on my side, that means that I need to communicate with them. I need to take action. I need to tell them, I need to ask them questions. I need to take initiative. If you have that mindset, you will come out of this time so much better. Because you didn't let the negativity or the no-sayers hold you back during this time. The next thing is for you just to remember, and you might already know this, but this is a marathon. This is not a week-long, 2-week, 1-month thing. The effects of what's happening, right? The things that are happening right now are going to have long-term effects on almost every industry and person around the world, right? So this is a marathon. A lot of things are going to change. We've got to start viewing in that and like acknowledging it. We can be sad about it. And then we got to start moving into this area of just accepting it and saying, okay, things are going to look different. Okay, this year is not going to look like I thought. But that doesn't mean your career doesn't get to be what you want it to be in the long term, right? So this is a marathon. There are a lot of things that you can't control, but you can control the way you respond. I know you've probably heard that many times. And so I just want to encourage you in the way that you respond. And that's what we're going to dive into today. The last thing is don't do this alone. And, I've just been thinking about personal experiences that I have, and I won't go into much detail, but I'm just realizing there are people in my life that they cannot go through this time alone. And you can't go through this time alone. You can't bottle this up either. And so I want to encourage you to find those people in your life that are positive people that you can share on a daily basis that today sucks, today's great. I had a good day, I didn't have a great day, right? You need that. But then I want you to take it a step further, and I want you to make a list of the people that you know who are alone or are struggling in this time because of their job or the lack of their job, or that they live alone, or that they are compromised with their immune system and have other conditions. I want you to think about those people, and I want you to reach out to them. A simple text, something through social media, whatever. But the moment that you start doing that for others, I promise you that it will affect you and it will build you up. It's very therapeutic for you as much as it is for them. So I want to encourage you in that. As we move into talking about responding resourcefully, this is a little quote, a little phrase that I have in my office and that we've posted on our social media. And I've even shared with some of the girls that work for me. It's so simple. Life is really tough, but guess what? So are you. And I know that that's simple, and you might be laughing at me, and I don't care, but I think someone needs to hear this. And I know I needed to hear this the other day. And so I want you to know that this isn't easy, but it's not supposed to be, right? But I'm going to give you some tools and some ideas so that you don't feel helpless, okay? So let's talk about responding resourcefully and what that looks like. So look at this first one. Don't stop building your portfolio. So maybe you don't actually have a design portfolio, whatever field you're in, but some of you do if you're in interior design, like I talked about. Don't stop building your portfolio, your website, your resume, your LinkedIn profile, your cover letter, your emails, your email signature, whatever it is that you need to network, communicate, and move forward in your career. Don't stop building it. So like we talked about, differentiate yourself. There might be things that you've been putting off that you now are going to be pressured or have time to do. Do it. So don't stop building that portfolio. Also realize that anything digital, of your digital presence, is more important now than ever before. So you need to relook at those things. So if you've already designed out some different things, or you've already created a LinkedIn profile, I need you to go back to it. I need you to review it and look at it again, because that is the way that people are finding people to hire or to find interns. And you've got to be more competitive there. I want to encourage you not to stop inquiring for internships and jobs. I know that there has been a lot of hiring freezes. I know that a lot of smaller firms or companies are hesitant to take on freelancers or interns or anybody because they don't know what their company is going to look like in 1 to 2 months, especially as we think about summer interns right now. And I know that that's probably something that's really worrying you. I don't want you to stop inquiring. I don't want you to wait to inquire. I want you to still inquire, but I want you to be really aware of what you're saying to them. So in your email or in your cover letter, if you're sending it right now, say, I understand that processes and the way your company looks is different right now because of the pandemic that we're in, but I still want to express my interest in this internship or this position or this job. And then tell them how you can work, or that you're comfortable and with working remotely, and that you can do that because you have shown yourself to be self-driven and productive on different projects, right? You just might have to adapt what you're saying in these emails and cover letters so that you can get that response and start that conversation with these companies, but don't stop inquiring. Places that I want you to start looking. I want you to be looking for internships and jobs on LinkedIn. I want you to go to company websites that you know that you would like to work for and look at their careers page. Look if they've updated anything on there. Look at these companies' social media and LinkedIn business profiles to see what they're saying. You can use websites like flexjobs.com. They specialize in freelance work. So if this might be part of your plan B, you might have wanted a full-time job or a full-time internship coming up, but you might have to take a part-time job, or you might have to take a freelance job for a little bit to get through this time. FlexJobs might be a great resource for you. Also think about the organizations a part of your industry. So for students, there's always a student chapter of a bigger organization for probably the field that you're going into. So look into that. Are they sharing anything about internships or jobs? Are they giving you any tips or tricks that are specific to your industry? Go look there, ask questions. If you feel like you have some questions that are really specific to your industry and how you should handle something, or how you can suggest some different things, then I would encourage you to reach out to your mentors and reach out to your bosses, professors, anybody who has a little bit more experience than you do in the industry, and ask them about how you should handle a specific situation, or ask them what companies, or what's the current status or the pulse of what's happening with this firm or this company. Ask around. Don't be afraid to do that. The next thing is that I want you to communicate how you can serve these different companies, right? So when you're reaching out to them, and maybe you're in email conversations, you've already applied and things like that, I want you to go ahead and take initiative to tell them how you can serve them virtually, how you can work remotely, how you don't mind doing that you're flexible, that you would love to help them with projects they haven't been able to finish, but maybe this would be the opportunity to assist in those projects. Maybe it's for smaller companies or firms who don't have digital databases, and realizing that it's really important for them to have some of these databases and organization and some of these digital things, or their website. You could help with that. If you have the technical ability, if you have the skills for that, offer it up, offer some solutions, ask them how you can help them. You might also have to get creative in what you're offering. So maybe it's that if you're doing an internship and normally you'd want it to be paid, that you're going to have to offer a non-paid internship and then do some work remotely, like freelance. Or you might have to get another job, or you might have to do 2 internships at a time if that's allowed and they don't overlap or they don't compete. Or you might have to just do one small internship in the summer and one in the fall. And I know that that's not your plan, but I really need you to start viewing plan B as an opportunity, and not as what we normally view plan B as being like second best, or what you had to settle with. This is not the time to be viewing it that way. So I want you to think about, is grad school was that previously one of your plan Bs? That second internship, freelance work, working for a company outside the industry you thought you were going to be with. What does that plan B look for you? What are those possibilities? I know you might not want to do it and it's not ideal, but how are you going to respond resourcefully? How are you going to respond now so that when you look back on this time, just like we looked back on 2008, there, for a lot of people in their resumes and their career history, there's this little ripple, right? That might be a little inconsistent with the rest of their career journey that happened around 2008 when the economy crashed. But you know what stands out is, how did those people respond during those times? What kind of work did they get when they got laid off, right? They couldn't control being laid off, but they could control how they responded to that. And that's the same thing that's going to happen in years to come. We're going to look back at this period of time and we're going to look at those really strong professionals. How did they respond, right? So I want you to keep that in mind. Another thing that it might be about plan B is I think I said, thinking about those businesses or companies that maybe touch your industry. So it's not a company that you normally would have worked for, but it might work for right now. So if you're in interior design, do you have to go towards a retail company, a construction company, a real estate company to help them? There might be different online companies you never thought of, but they utilize the skills that you have, such as certain technical skills or organization skills or customer service skills, right? And you have those skills, and so you can transfer them and adapt them to a different company or a different industry. So that's what I want you to think about. And I tell this to anybody who is moving from one industry to the next, and they feel like their resume is not going to speak to this new industry, right? What I tell them is, you have to base your resume on your skills. You have to tell about your experiences and your education, but in every bullet that you're saying, it's got to go back to the skills. Because what they're going to look at is, if you're talking a lot about customer service, communication, and interpersonal skills, and even though you did that in industry A, they still need communication, customer service, and interpersonal skills in industry B. So you have those skills, they're just going to have to train you on the job. So this is the same thing. You have got to rely on those skills and really know those skills and communicate those so that you can move into these areas that might be part of your plan B. Also, when we're thinking about skills and education, if you look at this fourth bullet on the screen, is how can your education and skills help a business or industry during or after this pandemic? So is there anything that you know how to do that you really could help? I think I said this before, but what if there's a smaller company who really needs a simple website, and you have some experience with websites through doing your website portfolio and it's a good fit? Could you not help them with that? Could you not help with some of the design parts of that? So I want you to think about the skills and the things you've done, and maybe how could this help a company? And they never would have considered this, but they are now. I also want you to think, if you're going to think about different companies to work for, what industries or businesses are really busy because of this pandemic, right? So I know that there are some companies and some positions where you can't apply for because you don't have the credentials, the education, or the skills, like a doctor, a nurse, those type of things. But outside of that, there are a lot of online distribution companies, online technology companies that are hiring. And daily on social media, I have been seeing posts about all the companies that are hiring right now. One great resource for you to follow is careercontessa.com. You can also follow them on Instagram. They have great posts, super informative, and they've been listing out all the companies that are hiring right now for remote jobs. So I encourage you to follow that. Okay. So like I have said, I want you to control what you can control. And this thought is going to move us into adapting professionally. And the two main areas that I want to touch on are your working remotely and then your interviewing as well, because a lot of you are going to need to be interviewing, but we need to be interviewing by phone or by video. not in person right now. So I want to talk through some of those things so you know what to expect. But I do want to encourage you that you, of all generations, you can adapt best to this working remotely, virtual learning and communication, virtual social networking, all of this. You are equipped to be able to adapt best. So do it. So I just want to encourage you in that you can do this. It just might take you being a little resourceful, right? Okay, so let's look at a few things when we're talking about working remotely. And I have about 8 things that I just want to share with you really quickly. And you might have heard them through other people. You might have seen them in other posts and articles and in videos. But I want to share with you 8 things that I have seen in my own career. And I have seen in other professionals that when you do them, it helps. When you don't do them, you spiral into being very unproductive, distracted, and it can really affect your perspective, your mental health, all those things that we talked about in the beginning. So these are super simple, and I wanted them to be simple because I want them to be doable and really practical for you. And I also am sharing these things because these are the things that I've done for 4.5 years. I work from home. My team is remote. Each one of us work from home, and we have had to figure out what are those things that are going to help us be productive and help us stay on track and also help with our moods and all of that. So here we go. Number 1, create a workspace. Create a workspace that you are going to work in only. This is not in your bed. This for me cannot be on my couch. It has to be the space that I do my work. And it doesn't have to be a full room. It could be a part of your kitchen table. It could be in the corner of your bedroom, but it is a designated space where you can sit upright in a chair with good posture, and you can sit at a desk or a table and have your computer up there. You're not hunched over with it in your lap for hours on end, right? That's not good for you. So create a workspace. And then I need you to have others respect that workspace. So for me, even when I started my business, I only had a small desk in a corner. But my husband and I respected that space as when I'm sitting there, I'm working, right? And it helps me be productive. And when I'm not there, then I can do other things that are in my house, right? But when I'm working there, that is all is surrounding me. So equip your space so you don't get up and get distracted. Put everything you need in front of you. If that's Post-its or pens or a candle or your notes or whatever, put everything you need in that space so you're not constantly getting up and getting distracted by the things in your home or the people in your home. Number 2, I kind of skipped over, but it is important for you if you get if you can't focus for long periods of time in the same space, create 2 spaces in your house. And this was shared with me, and I think it's a great idea. For certain work, you need to be really focused, right? So you need that space where you can shut the door, it can be quiet, you can really focus on your work. But there's other work that might be more creative, or it's just kind of tedious, repetitive work that you could do while listening to something or while being in the kitchen where other people are coming in and out, and you can still get the work done. So you have to decide that for yourself and the type of work that you do and that you're doing right now. But maybe you create those 2 workspaces so that you can create some variety in your working. The last thing on here is a notes page. I know this sounds simple, but it helps you not get distracted, but it also helps with stress management. Have a notepad, have a notebook, have something. Sometimes I have Post-its on my desk, and I will just dump my thoughts there because someone has said them to me or because I saw something in an email, but I can't get distracted and go that route right yet. Or maybe it's just something as I'm working on another project, I think about something for another client, then I'm going to write that down really quickly and move back to what I was doing so I don't get distracted. So I encourage you to do that. Number 6, I want you to get dressed every day. I know you don't want to. I know it's a lot easier just to kind of be in lounge clothes, put your hair up in a bun, but I want to encourage you to create structure in your life. Your structure and your normal schedule has been stripped from you. You have to put back that structure. And so getting dressed, having a bra on, and putting on a nice shirt, you can be comfortable, but just get dressed for the day. It's the same thing. If you go ahead and put on your workout clothes, then you're more prone to go work out, right? So get dressed for your day. And I'm saying this Monday through Friday. Saturday and Sundays, of course, I'm more casual. I don't have all my makeup on and that kind of thing. But during the week, when I know I need to be productive, I get myself dressed. Number 7, create a to-do list at the beginning of each day or at the end of each day. So there's some times where at the very end of a day in the evening, I'll get my planner out and write for the next day, what are those things that I have got to get done that next day? What are my priorities? If nothing else gets done, what do I need to make sure I get done? This helps me so that my mind doesn't think about it as I'm trying to go to sleep, and I don't stay stressed. But it also keeps me focused during the day to get those things done. And it's really rewarding to highlight something that you've done it. And you look at your day and everything is highlighted, right? So give yourself that satisfaction while giving yourself that structure, right? Okay, number 8 is set time limits. I have to do this because there are inevitably projects and tasks that you don't want to do, but you have to do. And you keep pushing them off and procrastinating, right? So what I do is I say, okay, I think this task is going to take me 1 hour to complete. If I really focus, it'll take 1 hour. If I don't focus, it's going to take 4 hours, and I'm still not going to feel good about it. So if I do 1 hour, I can get this project done. That means no texting, no checking email, no going on my Instagram feed, no answering messages anywhere else, no getting up to the kitchen, none of that. Sitting down and focusing on it. And when you do that, then you reward yourself with all those other things that you normally get distracted with. I know these things sound simple, but they really do work. And maybe there's other things that work for you. And I encourage you to just start testing them out. If you feel like this is overwhelming to do all of them all at once, then tomorrow test out one of them and really commit to it, and then move through the next ones. This is my next little quote. I think you kind of pick up that I like these, but the next one is, success doesn't come first, work comes first. So work like the success you want. So if you want a successful career in interior design or whatever field, then you've got to start acting like a successful person now. It's not like you're just going to start instantly becoming the successful person at a certain time. No, you've got to start those habits of working remotely and adapting well now, and then the success will come. So another part of adapting and getting to that success that you want is how you're going to communicate through interviews, or just even meetings with employers or potential employers or people you're networking with. And I want to go through just a few really practical tips for you that are so important right now and really noticeable. And really what you're doing if you follow these is you're proving to the employer that you can work remotely. And you don't have to say that. It's a lot more powerful if you show someone that you can do it and not just tell them that you can do it. So I want you to start proving to them that you really can be professional and work remotely and adapt well. So let's look through a few of these things when we're talking about video interviews. The biggest thing is your first impression. Now, normally your first impression is you walking into the building or the office, and it's the way that you stand and walk and carry yourself. It's the way that you smile. It's the way that you shake someone's hand. It's the way that you say your name and say their name back to them. It's all those things. But we don't have all of those things when we're doing a video interview. So we've got to think about what are those elements of my first impression now, and how can I control those? So for one, if they are using a certain platform for their interviews, I want you to think about the accounts that you have. Make sure that those usernames, those emails, those things that you're using are professional. So if they decide they need to use Skype and you've always used Skype for personal reasons, check your account. Make sure that username and name and profile picture are professional. Next is your background. So once that screen comes on and y'all are connected, what is behind you? Is it distracting? I did some mock interviews with one professional a couple weeks ago, and she was trying to figure out where was best for her to sit and have her camera. And she had her back to her kitchen, which was very clean. It was a beautiful kitchen. But the thing was, there was so much going on behind her. Counters and cabinets in the fridge and some flowers on the counter and all that stuff. And it was just a lot going on that it was distracting me from her. So we got her to switch around the table to just a very simple wall behind her. And it worked so much better. The focus was on her and not everything behind her. So just think about the things that we can see. Maybe everything behind you is fine and professional, but is it distracting? I want you to think about that. Another thing to think about in your background is, do you have any doorways behind you? If you do, can they be opened by someone who's living in the house with you full time right now? And so think through that. Like, will they be walking through? Do you need to lock that door? Do you need to move yourself so they're not coming in behind you? Just think about that. The next thing is your camera. You want to have it about arm's length away. You want to elevate that your laptop, if it's really flat to your desk, so that it's hitting you at a flattering angle. And usually say people, you can look 1/3 of the way from the top of your screen, or 2/3 up is a great place for your eyes to be when you're thinking about elevating your screen. But another reason why you want to elevate your screen, and this is more for females, is that I want you to think about the necklines that you have and the camera angle and making sure that's appropriate and not distracting. Also with first impression is your lighting. Natural light is best light, unless if you've purchased like a ring light or something like that. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you're facing natural light. So if you have a window in the room that you've decided to be in, I want you to face that window. Don't have it behind you, because what's going to happen is you're going to have this big, bright, glaring light behind you, and then you're going to look really dark to me on the other end. Think about your glasses, though. If you wear glasses, make sure there's not a glare from the light that's overhead, because then I can't see your eyes, and that makes for kind of more of an awkward interaction for video interviews. Another thing is, think about if you're wearing glasses that are for blue light, they can be really reflective sometimes. And so I can see your computer screen back in your glasses. So just be aware of those things. As far as clothing goes, you want to watch those necklines. Make sure you have a sleeve. You're not sleeveless. And darker colors are more flattering, especially when you can't know if you're going to have the best lighting on your skin tone and that kind of thing. So you might want to go with a darker color, a simple print. A few other things of just replacing that normal handshake that you would have when you meet someone. Smile. Smile at them and look at them. Have good posture. You can move your body. You don't have to look stiff, right? Those things are going to create more of that connection that we're lacking normally in videos. The last thing here is eye contact and eye shifting. I want you to be careful of this. Don't get distracted by your phone or other things that you have in front of you. It is very noticeable when you are looking at other things and you're distracted. And this isn't just a tip for interviews, because I think you're going to be a little more focused in an interview, but this is also affecting just your meetings you have professionally with your professors, with your bosses, with your coworkers. Just know that people are watching you and they can see you. So watch that eye contact. Make sure you look like you are paying attention. The next thing is sounds and distractions. Man, this is a big one, and I think it happens almost in every conference call that I'm a part of. If you have a Mac or a PC, you can do this. I think it's a little easier on Mac, and that's what I'm more familiar with. But you can go up to the top right-hand corner of your Mac screen, and there's 3 little bars. You can click on that and scroll up, and you can turn off your notifications. This makes sure that no text, calls, emails, notifications pop up on your screen while you're on that interview or in that meeting. That's really good because those sounds are really loud on the other end. You want to be careful of that. Other thing is mute etiquette. If you're not speaking, you should mute yourself. Now, if you're just on a call with one other person and there's a lot of back and forth conversation, don't mute yourself every time they're talking, because there's going to be a delay there and that could create for an awkward conversation. But if there are a couple people on there and they're talking for a length of time, you might want to just mute yourself. Just be very aware of that so that you can unmute yourself and talk very quickly. The biggest thing that slows down meetings, especially with multiple people, is when someone is constantly trying to find where their mute button is to unmute themselves to answer the question that someone just asked. So just be really aware of this and how it affects the meeting and the interview. Next thing is test your tech. There's a couple reasons why I want you to test your tech. One is to practice. Practice your questions. Practice answering and staring into a screen. It's different. So practice it. Listen to yourself. Get used to that. You also want to test the audio, different computers, different settings. Just make sure that your audio is working. If you want to test call, do a Zoom call or something like that, or FaceTime through your computer with someone else just to test it, do that. I've done that with my husband before he's needed to teach a class. The other thing for you to know is that AirPods do create a little bit different sound quality for the person on the other side. So just test that out. And if you are having to use some kind of headphones or anything like that, just ask at the beginning of the interview or the meeting, hey, can you hear me okay? Is there a lot of background noise? Just be courteous in that way. If you're experiencing technical issues during your interview or your meeting, inform them right away. Because if you're only getting every other word because there's a bad connection of some kind on their end or your end, it can make for a really weird interview. So just speak up and say something. Two things that I really want you to have in front of you is your resume and the job description. Now, the thing to caution you is don't use these as a crutch, because remember, they can see your eyes, they can see you. So make sure that you use them, but don't rely on them. So for your resume, one thing that I tell people all the time, one great way to prepare for an interview is to read your own resume. Review every single line and section of your resume and take notes next to it. So if you have a specific part-time job on your resume in the experience section, I want you to write out next to it some notes on what you would expand on, what skills you know from that job, and what you can use as an example when they ask you questions about your experience. And do that for every part of your resume, and you can refer to it, but don't read it. And then have the job description in front of you. I want you, before the interview, to go through every bullet and sentence of that job description and write out notes of how you can do that, or how you have done it, or how you can learn it, so that you have an answer for everything. Again, have notes there, but don't rely on it. This also, having the job description in front of you, might help you ask some questions on the fly, which might be really helpful. When you're answering questions, I want you to think about three things. I want you to stay positive. And what that means is I want you to focus on what you are doing and not what you can't do right now because of quarantine, because of the pandemic, because of these things, right? I want you to focus on what you are doing, what you can do, and what you hope to do. I want you to be very solution focused. So if they have an issue or something seems to be a problem or a barrier, I want you to think of a solution and how you can fix it, how you can help the team, how you can learn through it. And just let that be the underlying theme of what you're saying so that you remain really positive. And lastly, don't forget the thank you email. So we're not going to be doing anything through snail mail. You're going to do everything through email. But shortly after having that phone, video, whatever interview you just had, I want you to send a thank you email. Refer to something in the email, thank them for their time, let them know that you are still very interested, and keep it short and sweet. But don't forget that thank you email. So this is the end of my recording on how you can adapt your career. I hope you found this helpful. I hope it's encouraged you and help you think a little more creatively about what's happening in your career. If you ever have questions, you can always email me at eloise@eloisedesignco.com. You can visit my website, eloisedesignco.com, for our blog. We have many resources and blog posts about your personal brand, about your career that'll really help you. And then I'd love for you to follow along on social media, especially Instagram at Eloise Design Co., so that you can be encouraged and you can find out about these resources. I wish you all the best, and I hope to talk to you soon.